Inside the Monroe Laboratory control room, hundreds of hours of magnetic tape documented an unusual series of interactions. Researchers were recording ordinary people as they communicated with what appeared to be non-physical entities. The recordings revealed two distinct modes of contact. In two-thirds of the sessions, subjects acted as a relay, reporting conversations held with a third party. In the remaining third, entities were granted permission to take over the subject's body, speaking directly through their vocal cords. Throughout these sessions, the monitor in the control room served as the primary interviewer, mediating the exchange through an analog console and engaging with the visitors as if they were physical guests. Despite the metaphysical nature of the subject matter, the lab treated these voices as raw data. Each session was conducted under strict clinical protocols to ensure the results could be analyzed with scientific rigor. By aggregating these sessions, researchers identified 5 repeating variables that remained consistent regardless of the subject. First, the entities projected a warmth that evoked immediate trust. Second, they showed an intense concern for the human subject's physical and mental well-being. Third, the encounters followed a specific visual progression. Subjects first perceived the entities as hooded figures with faces hidden in deep shadow. Once the subject became comfortable, the heavy robes would dissolve, leaving only an invisible field of thermal radiation. The fourth constant was a limitation in vocabulary. The entities could only use the words found within the human subject's own memory, often pausing mid-sentence to search for the correct term. This chart captures the fifth constant, a tangible physiological change. When a direct transmission occurred, the lab's biomonitoring equipment recorded the subject's body voltage lunging sharply upward from its baseline. Because these physical and psychological markers remained identical across hundreds of sessions, the researchers were forced to take the specific cosmic claims found in the audio recordings seriously. In session 372, a physicist described a reality where the physical world is a conscious dream invented by a higher intelligence. In this framework, we are characters created so that the dreamer can learn through our experiences. A social worker in session 366 expanded on the nature of this dream, describing the non-physical space as an interwoven vortex of colors. These energy bands moved at different rhythmic beats, forming a complex spectrum that surrounded the subject. This technical diagram outlines the helix cosmology described by the entities. It organizes existence into numbered rings, with plants occupying levels 1 through 7 and animals on levels 8 through 14. Human life is localized to levels 15 through 21. At the threshold of level 21, a consciousness reaches the absolute edge of the physical experience and faces a transition point. Levels 22 through 28 form what the entities call the death bridge. Once a consciousness crosses these rings, it abandons the human form entirely and can no longer return to a physical body. This mapping suggests that the entire human experience is a bounded, lower-level system designed for education within an infinite stack of larger cosmic structures. To function within this physical level, consciousness must undergo curved thinking. This process bends the subject's energy so it can stay anchored to Earth without accidentally drifting out of body. This mapping grid illustrates how that energy is managed. A single source can power multiple physical avatars at once, allowing a consciousness to simultaneously experience life as an infant, an elderly person, and a man. This multitasking isn't restricted to Earth. Subjects reported that parts of their energy were also inhabiting alien organisms on distant worlds, existing as gelatinous life forms thousands of light years away. Session 375, featuring a psychologist, pushed these origins even further back. The subject described a bombardment of particles in deep space that eventually fused together into a functional mechanism. These colliding particles formed what subjects called the original computer. Communicating through heat and light, this network literally constructed the physical foundations of the Earth. The entities claim that modern human spirits are upgraded versions of this original cosmic machine, a refined iteration of a mechanism that has since disintegrated. When asked about the scale of this operation, the voices stated that exactly 1,000 supreme spirits are responsible for managing these communications. These operators define vicinity on a cosmic scale. Their reach extends across millions of light years, allowing them to monitor and manipulate star systems as easily as if they were in the same room. However, This vast intelligence creates a risk for the human subject. The biological brain is fragile. If it is forced to process too much high-level information at once, the neural fibers can flash orange and visibly short-circuit. Because of this fragility, the entities describe human life as an assessment of their own engineering. We are the testers for a spiritual architecture, existing to see how far a physical mind can stretch before the hardware reaches its breaking point. In session 388, the laboratory's clinical approach began to collapse. The data gathered from a subject known as the decorator ceased to be technical and instead took the form of biblical poetry. The voice asserted that it was not a man, but the earthquake, the fire, and the stone. It cautioned researchers not to be deceived by their own reflections in a still pool, claiming the image looking back was actually its own. The researchers realized they were facing a losing battle of data. For every single answer they documented on their tapes, at least 50 new questions branched out across their notes. The Monroe team eventually concluded that the phenomenon could not be understood through isolated measurements. The attempt to categorize reality item by item had become an exercise in futility. To find the truth, science had to move past its focus on individual data points. The researchers realized they had to stop counting the isolated trees and finally look at the massive forest as a whole.